Welcome back, everyone, to Stories That Shouldn't Be Told. In today's episode, I'm sharing a true, terrifying story about being home alone and discovering that safety is sometimes an illusion. Every story is a warning. Sometimes the danger is already at your door. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it with anyone who loves a good scare. And tell me in the comments, what are your favorite types of horror stories? Your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's begin. I was 19 when my family left for my cousin's wedding in another state. They'd be gone 4 days, and I volunteered to stay behind to watch the house and feed our cat. Our property sits at the end of a dead-end street, surrounded by thick pine trees on 3 sides. The nearest neighbor is about a quarter-mile away, hidden behind a hill. On the second day, I drove to the local hardware store to pick up some light bulbs for our kitchen fixture. A man in his 30s with sandy brown hair and a faded denim jacket kept glancing at me while I talked to the cashier about which bulbs I needed. In the parking lot, he approached me with a friendly smile, asking if I knew of any good hiking trails in the area. I mentioned the state park about 10 minutes away and gave him basic directions. He thanked me and introduced himself as Mike, saying he was visiting from Colorado. When he asked my name, I told him it was Sarah. Driving home, I noticed a dark blue pickup truck driving slowly past our street. It looked like the same truck from the hardware store parking lot, but I couldn't be completely sure. Our street doesn't lead anywhere except our house and an old logging road, so there wasn't really any reason for anyone to be driving by unless they were lost. That evening, while I was making dinner in the kitchen, I heard what sounded like a car door slamming somewhere down the street. I looked out the window, but couldn't see anything through the thick trees. About an hour later, while watching television in the living room, I heard it again and went to the front window. I saw taillights disappearing around the bend, but they were too far away to identify the vehicle. The next morning, I discovered muddy footprints covering our front porch. They were large boot prints that led from the driveway to our front door, then around to the side of the house where my bedroom window is located. Someone had clearly stood there for an extended period of time. The ground was heavily trampled down, and there were several cigarette butts scattered in the pine needles beneath the window. I immediately called the police, but the responding officer wasn't very helpful or concerned. He said it could be anyone, maybe someone asking for directions who got confused about which door to knock on. He took a few photos of the footprints, but didn't seem overly worried about the situation, simply suggesting I keep my doors locked and call back if anything else happened. That night, I double-checked every lock in the house and closed all the curtains tightly. I was trying to read in the living room when I heard soft, deliberate tapping coming from the back of the house near the kitchen. I crept toward the sound, my phone ready to dial 911, when the tapping suddenly stopped. Then, I heard my name being called from outside in a barely audible whisper. "Sarah, I know you're in there." I recognized the voice immediately. It was Mike from the hardware store. My hands shook as I dialed 911 while he walked around the house, testing windows and doors, calling my name in increasingly creepy whispers that made my skin crawl. Police searched with flashlights, but found no one. They promised increased patrols, but I knew that meant nothing on our dead-end street. I called my parents, but they were 5 hours away at wedding festivities. I decided to stick out one more night, then go to my friend Jessica's apartment. The next evening, packing to leave, I heard a car door in our driveway. The blue pickup was parked next to my car, blocking me in. Mike walked toward the front door with another man in a baseball cap. I ran to the back door, but saw a third figure at the yard's edge, smoking and watching. I was trapped. I grabbed the phone and locked myself in my parents' bedroom, the only room with a deadbolt. I called 911 and whispered my situation. They weren't subtle anymore. The front door handle rattled aggressively, then someone threw their body against it. A window shattered. I heard their voices planning something. Mike called out, "Sarah, we just want to talk. Come out and no one gets hurt." His voice was different now, menacing. I stayed silent against the bedroom door. Footsteps approached in the hallway. Then someone tried the handle. When it didn't open, they started kicking. The door frame began splintering. Sirens wailed in the distance. The kicking stopped immediately. I heard rapid footsteps, car doors slamming, and an engine starting. By the time police arrived, they were gone. Officers found they'd broken a kitchen window and ransacked several rooms, apparently looking for valuables. But I knew they'd been there for me. I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't locked myself in that bedroom, or if police had taken longer to respond. That weekend changed me forever. I never stayed alone in that house again. My parents came home the next day, and we installed a security system. I learned later that Mike's real name was David Kellerman, with a history of stalking women in other states. He wasn't caught yet, and I keep hearing stories similar to mine, but with bad endings. I can't shake the feeling that I'm just waiting for my turn. That was not safe at home. If you made it this far, you know how quickly safe places can turn dangerous. So before your next quiet night alone, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe because more real horror stories are waiting. And some of them, they start just like this one.